Annyeonghaseyo.
반가워요. Veronica Park예요.
Hey, pay attention to me.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyla, and who's that? And what is she doing here?
So mean. I am Leslie. You know I have no chingu. If you are familiar with these iconic lines from Korean dramas, then you might be a little familiar with this cultural briefing.
To formally introduce ourselves, 안녕하세요, 제 이름은 Kyla예요.
안녕하세요. 저는 이름이 Leslie예요.
안녕하세요, 카시입니다. 반갑습니다. Here to give you a brief overview of Seoul, South Korea, or also known as the land of the oppas.
The capital of South Korea since 1948, Seoul is one of the busiest and most compelling cities in Asia, and is by far the biggest metropolis there. It is located on the Han River, not far from the Korean peninsula's geographic center. South Korea's commercial, cultural, and industrial heart is also an epicenter for higher education, home to various institutions of advanced literacy, including Seoul National University. What distinguishes it from other nations? It varies from other countries due to the fusion of the old and the new. From Korean technology, pop culture, and fashion to its music, arts, and cuisine, this fusion of the past and present are palpable everywhere. Delicious local cuisine can be found everywhere, from the busy street food stalls and enchanting night markets in Myeongdong to high-end restaurants. Next is languages. Standard Korean and Seoul dialect are mainly spoken in Seoul, with Seoul dialect borrowing words from English and spoken with a smooth pitch compared to other dialects spoken in the country. Pronunciations of vowels E and A seem to fuse in young speakers, and phonological link is not consistently penalized. Konglish, similar to the Philippines Taglish, is also utilized with English loanwords like handphone, which means mobile phone. Konglish is not a category of English, but rather a subcategory of Korean, which uses English words contextualized with the Korean language. The type of English used in Seoul is American English, with the Korean preference to its convention and accent. The use of English in Seoul and Konglish is deeply associated with wealth, sophistication, youth, and modernity. Let me give you some information about the dialect utilized in Seoul. Gyeonggi dialect is the standard dialect. It is the prestige dialect and the foundation of the standardized form utilized in South Korea. The dialect Gyeonggi is spoken throughout the Korean peninsula and even in densely populated cities such as Seoul and Incheon, city of Kaesong, and the whole Gyeonggi province. In addition, it is spoken as well in the counties of Gapong and Chapong of North Korea. Now we have the Korean loanwords. First is the Korean term eye shopping and pronounced as eye shopping, which means window shopping in English. The Korean term hunting and pronounced as hunting, which means searching for a date in English. Next is the Korean term soul food and pronounced as solpud, which means comfort food in English. The Korean term wonshot and pronounced as wonshot, which means bottoms up in English. Lastly, the Korean term tika and pronounced as tika, which means digital camera in English.
South Koreans also engage in different festivals and observe holidays that is mostly accentuated by their cultural performances and traditions. For example, Chuseok holiday. Chuseok holiday is a 3-day holiday that is typically celebrated in the month of September or October in South Korea as a Hangawi or Thanksgiving to show appreciation or gratitude to their ancestors for a fruitful harvest. This time of the year is actually one of Korea's biggest and most important holidays, as it is one of the times when Koreans return to their ancestral homes to celebrate with their families. Traditionally, Chuseok is made joyful by various entertainments like initiating a dance circle and playing traditional games of wrestling. They also celebrate this through the preparation of traditional feast, including sweet rice cakes called songpyeon, where usually on the eve of Chuseok, family members gather to make songpyeon together. Before, it has also been a tradition to dress up in hanbok or traditional clothing on the day of Chuseok. However, with modernization, some of these traditions have been altered, but the essence of the holiday remains unerringly strong. Next, we have Solal holiday, also known as Lunar New Year's Day. So this one is celebrated on the first day of the lunar calendar. This is also another holiday wherein Koreans return to their hometowns to pay respect to their ancestors and catch up with their own families. This is typically celebrated by performing ancestral rites like charye, which involves the preparation of food by female relatives and served by male relatives. Aside from that, they also indulge in activities like playing folk games such as yutnori, eating traditional food, and also listening to stories, and basically interacting and being with their own families through the night. Lastly, we have the Seoul Lantern Festival. So this one is celebrated annually in November or the weekend before Buddha's birthday. It is considered one of the major cultural festivals of Seoul as it has attracted millions of people every year since 2009. This festival displays hundreds of colorful LED lights and intricate life-size lanterns made of hanji or traditional Korean paper that is patterned to different themes every year. During the span of the festival, colorful lanterns are hung in the streets and crowds holding their own handmade lanterns gather for a celebratory parade to express good wishes for themselves or for their families, as lighting lanterns became a symbol of enlightenment for them through Buddhist wisdom. Eventually, the said festival became a celebration that integrates society and helps people overcome the troubles of the day.
South Korea is known for its vibrant cultural legacy that has transcended generations. Let me now take you through Seoul's literature, arts, and crafts. First up is literature. The rise of the Joseon dynasty gave birth to Hangul, the alphabetic system that is used to write the Korean language, making it possible for the development of Korean literature. The first recorded use of Hangul was found in the epic poem Song of the Flying Dragons or Yeobyeongchanga. It was used to accompany court music praising the Joseon dynasty's founding and puts it in a high pedestal. This poem kicked off the use of the Korean alphabet. The records trace the beginnings of this significant work in Hanyang, which is now called Seoul. In the modern times, the use of Hangul in literature continued to flourish and developed into one of the most famous forms that can be associated with the Korean language, which is webtoons. A webtoon is a form of literature which has graphics and text that is meant to be read online. The most recognized webtoon in Seoul, Korea is True Beauty, a romantic comedy slice of life webtoon where a shy comic fan learns the art of makeup after binge-watching tutorials online and becomes her high school's prettiest girl overnight. And of course, we cannot not mention K-pop. It is an area of arts in Seoul and South Korea as a whole that is rapidly growing. It is a splendid performance that harmonizes excellent singing skills, stage manners, and flashy dance moves. The songs and the choreography of the idol groups for perfect performance are not built in a day or two. They are attributed to years of thorough planning in conjunction with systematic training programs and sweat during their training periods. Active communication with fans also accounts for K-pop's ever-growing popularity. The Korean mulberry paper dolls is a trend in Seoul as a form of craft due to its widespread promotion in the city to promote the use of hanji paper. The dolls are layered pieces of beautifully colored mulberry paper over a wire frame and secured with beautiful glue. The dolls often depict traditional scenes or subjects. From the brightly colored attire to the flushed cheeks, every element of these delightful scenarios is crafted with hanji paper. Aside from K-dramas and K-pop, Seoul in South Korea is also known for its food. Kimchi! Kimchi is a staple side dish to every meal. It consists of fermented vegetables with a signature red spicy sauce due to the dried chili pepper flakes. The most common type of kimchi is snapper cabbage kimchi, but it can also be radish kimchi, cucumber kimchi, mustard leaf kimchi, and many more. Jjajangmyeon. Jjajangmyeon is a popular takeout dish that has noodles drenched in sweet with a slightly bitter aftertaste of black bean sauce with pork cubes and vegetables. Next, we have kimbap. With kim meaning seaweed and bap meaning rice, it is a Korean version of a Japanese sushi roll. It is a rice roll wrapped in seaweed sheets that consist of cooked rice, vegetables, and meat or pork.
Tteokbokki is a Korean street food snack made primarily of chewy rice cakes and a fiery, funky gochujang chili paste. Tok means rice cake and bokki stir-fried food. Combining these two words forms the term tteokbokki or stir-fried rice cake. Tteokbokki has evolved into a more fancy meal served in a huge pot full of ingredients like dumplings, vegetables, noodles, and sausages. Kimchi jjigae is a traditional Korean stew made from fermented spicy cabbage called kimchi, pork broth, miso paste, onions, and traditional Korean chili paste also known as gochugaru. Sometimes tofu is also added to the stew. Next is bibimbap. Bibimbap is a dish that combines rice, vegetables, meat, sesame oil, and gochujang in a single bowl to eaten with a spoon and chopsticks. It is now one of the most well-known names in Korean cuisine. Bibimbap offers a truly unique package of flavor and nutrition in a single meal. The combination of fresh vegetables or of various colors, rice, and meat fills the bowl with a sense of harmony achieved with a low caloric intake.
Next, we have japchae. If you're fond of eating in samgyeopsal restaurants with your friends, family, or just by yourself, you may be familiar with this dish, as this is what they give you as a side dish along with kimchi, braised potatoes, egg omelets, and such. And if you haven't encountered this one, it's actually a stir-fried glass noodles mixed with different vegetables like carrots, mushrooms, spinach, and such, which has a combination flavor of sweet and savory. Next, we have ramyeon. So, ramen is like the Korean version of Japanese ramen, but this one is always instant, or they come in the form of cup noodles and such. So, this is actually considered as the comfort food of many Koreans, and you'll often see a stockpile of these in different flavors in the usual household setting. Lastly, we have mandu. So, these are Korean dumplings stuffed with pork, garlic chives, and vegetables. And what most Koreans do when they usually make mandu is that they prepare them in large quantities and store them in the freezer for future use, and when they are to be consumed, they either boil it or fry them. Some are also steamed and some are also baked in the oven. So basically, there are actually different ways on how you can cook mandu.
Now we have the other cultural elements. First is formality of dress in business. South Korea is known to be a conservative country, and the business traits bring a positive outcome to it. For formal events, there is a business dress code or a norm that needs to be followed. First is to stick to dark colors. May opt to black, dark gray, or dark blue, and either be a suit and a good-looking tie, or a knee dress. The type of material may vary depending on the weather. It can either be a wool or a lightweight cotton suit. Second, suits and dresses are worn by women except for miniskirts, revealing and skin-tight outfits. Furthermore, tattoos are completely hidden. Third is adding a pixie dust of jewelry that screams elegance yet simple, but not too bold or extravagant, and a personal touch in addition. While for men, a watch and a tie clip is enough. Fourth, flashy shoes should not be worn. Men should wear a pair of leather shoes either in the color black or brown, while for women, they can wear any footwear as long as it is business-like shoes. Since Koreans have a culture of removing their shoes before going inside them, sit on the floor instead. These are usually for traditional meetings. Lastly, pockets are utilized for handkerchiefs and business cards. Next is shop opening times. The shop opening times in Seoul vary depending on the store. As to what they say, Seoul is the city that never sleeps. Stalls often open around 11 p.m. and it gets busier and hectic as the time passes by, since it is bustling with people on the streets in the middle of the night, and it usually closes around 5 a.m. Streets will never go dark as Seoul is famous for its nightlife. Department stores such as Myeongdong and Dongdaemun, which are busy shopping areas, usually open before 10:30 and close after 8:30 p.m. Typically, department stores are closed during Monday, usually one day a month. Meanwhile, the private businesses and small shops open between 8:30 a.m. and 10 a.m., then close between 9 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Thus, several cosmetic shops open as early as 9 a.m., while food outlets are often closed after late in the evening.
The public transportation in Seoul is efficient, punctual, and convenient. But first, you have to purchase the travel pass. The most inexpensive one and the most common is the T-Money card. You can use this card in any of the public transportation systems in Seoul. It can be bought in convenience stores, subway stations, T-Money Town, or Myeongdong Tourist Information Center. With a total of 22 lines, Seoul is one of the largest networks and most convenient urban subway systems in the world, serving areas outside the city. It is one of the most efficient ways to get around a city, taking you where you need to go and when you want to, and operates from as early as 4 a.m. until 1 a.m. Additionally, prices are reasonable with a standard cost of 1,350 won or 50 pesos. Plus, it is fully air-conditioned and has free Wi-Fi. In Seoul, there's an extensive public bus system that connects all of the city's locations. Similar to the subway, buses run continuously from early in the morning until late at night. Moreover, you won't have any trouble identifying the bus you need to board because each one is color-coded according to the region it serves, making them all immediately distinguishable by their color. Taxis in Seoul are typically inexpensive, but this can also be said for other modes of transportation mentioned. With a base rate of 3,800 won or 150 pesos, riding a taxi as a group is one of more ways to make the trip cheaper. Like Grab and Enkas in the Philippines, there is also an app for taxis in Korea, which are Kakao Taxi and Tmap Taxi, the top 2 transportation service apps in Seoul. They sure do make public transportation in Seoul easy for almost anyone. While tipping in restaurants is a common practice in the Philippines, in Seoul and in South Korea in general, it is considered as rude and disrespectful. Tipping can be mistaken as a sign of arrogance and pity. It is best to avoid those awkward situations by assuming you shouldn't tip unless a sign states that it is fine to do so.
So for the political system of South Korea, the country is actually run by a pluralistic democratic type of system where the head of the executive branch of the government, or the president, is publicly elected through a majoritarian electoral system or through popular voting system. The elected official has the role of carrying out and enforcing laws, upholding the constitution, and preserving the national independence of the country. Once the president has officially taken its position, he or she shall appoint a prime minister with the approval of the legislative branch or the National Assembly, composing of 300 members serving 4-year terms each. The prime minister holds the second position after the president and acts also as his or her principal executive assistant. He or she bears the responsibility of supervising and managing the 18 ministries of the country. Aside from that, the Prime Minister is also compelled to take charge and execute roles as an acting president in the event of presidential disability or death. In terms of the judicial system, the Republic of South Korea adhere to the 3-tier justice system, which is composed of district courts, high courts, and Supreme Court. Besides these, the judiciary also operates a family court, an administrative court, and patent court. So the role of these courts is to hand down decisions in litigations involving civil, criminal, administrative, election, and other matters. At present, the Republic of South Korea has been under the administration of President Yoon Suk-yeol and the assistance of his elected Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who have officially taken their position just this year, 2022. So for the religion, actually, South Korea has no official state religion as it has been recognized as a multi-religious society. As reported by a survey conducted in the year 2021, it was found that almost 50% of the population has no affiliated religion, 20% of the country is dominated by Protestantism religion, 17% by Buddhism, and 11% of the population are found to observe and practice Catholicism. In addition, some also affiliate themselves with Confucianism, although this traditional Asian philosophy was not really considered by many Koreans as a religion, rather as a way of viewing of life that can coexist with other religions. Also, most Koreans were found to have been practicing an instrumentalist approach to religious life, where they are at liberty to observe and subscribe to any religion as long as it deems beneficial to their end. So to speak, their mindset and belief stems on the aspect of resorting to anything and everything just to survive. Having themselves immersed in a spiritual landscape allowed them to find their solace and peace, considering the possible anxieties that the modern world may give them.
And that's the end of our cultural briefing. Again, my name is Cassie.
And this is Kyla.
And this is Blessy. And you are now all my chingu. Thank you for listening. 감사합니다.
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 감사합니다.